I just goofed on that. Okay, so there's that. Okay, cool. I can't tell if YouTube's actually working. So here's stopping. Okay. Well, we'll see if this works. I don't know. Alright. Well, let's cross our fingers and hope that the tech's not going to just hate me. I genuinely can't tell if this is working. Okay, well, it's working on TikTok and Instagram, and I guess at this point that is all that really matters. Okay, whoop. Alright. Okay, well, oh, more people. Cool. Well, I'm gonna get started and hope that maybe other people will join. Something you're gonna find out real fast is that other paleontologists are not terribly reliable. I cannot get them to communicate worth squat. And that, my friends, is why we need science communicators, because the scientists cannot do it, even with other scientists. It's insane. Let me see. Thank you to those who are already on. I gotta say, I don't like the way Instagram does this. Like, the camera does not line up at all like it does with everything else, and I don't understand that. So, kudos for being terrible at cameras, Instagram. Alright. At least it looks good on TikTok. Alright. So, welcome to Minerals, Rocks, and Fossil Talks. I am, well, I guess for today, both geology and paleontology teacher Jen. Apparently, siblings are gonna make all the noise in the background. Alright. So, hope you guys are all having a good New Year's Eve day. I had the day off, so I went to the movies and saw Wicked, and now I've got like all the songs re-stuck in my head from when I initially learned them, and it took all my self-control not to sing in the theater, at least out loud. Haven't seen that one? I recommend it. But we're not here for movies. We are here to talk about number one, Trivia Tuesday. I got lots of sorry. Some of the paleontologists have gotten in touch with me. I can't talk and text at the same time. My bad. Okay. Anyway, so going across the multiple platforms and seeing the ones who answered the trivia. For those who did not know, the trivia question today was how many tectonic plates share a border with the North American plate. And the options I gave were 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. And as I go through, I think most people said 4 or 5. Let me double check. See what you guys were saying. Let's see. Sarcastic Therapsid said 7. Paleo Profile said 5. K. Kutch said 9 question mark. Justin Snyder 3 said 4. Thomas Voila, looks French. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Said 7. Ray M said, I'm guessing 5. Mike Foley 598 said 7. Rusty memory here, kind of a guess. And then Anya Bizabeth said, I'm going to guess 7. And then I had a few say let's see, we had Lyle Carbet said 9 and David Black said 9. And then there's a bunch on Tumblr, but they do like a full 24-hour thing, and I can't actually look at what the answers are until that 24 hours is up, which is really annoying. So I don't know what any of them said as of yet. But I do know that 16 people said something. So thank you. Find out tomorrow morning. So, without further ado, Lyle, David, and Kay Kutch, you're all correct. There are 9 plates that share a border with the North American plate. And I'd show you a picture, but I don't know how to do that because I am not tech savvy and my editor's just going to have to do it when he puts it up for Patreon. But to give you an idea, the names of those plates are the, we'll see if I say this right, Okhotsk. I can't say this one at all. But it's kind of part of the Asian continent, not the continental plate, but the Asian continent. And then there's the Eurasian continental plate, the African continental plate, the South American plate, the Caribbean plate, the Cocos plate, the Rivera plate, the Juan de Fuca plate, and the Pacific plate. So 9 in total. And some of them are very, very small, such as like the Juan de Fuca plate, which is actually almost completely subducted under the North American plate. But that is the plate that's causing all of the volcanism and the Cascades and all of that. So eventually, in a few more million years, there will only be 8 because Juan de Fuca will be eaten up. So congratulations to the 3 of you who got it right. To be fair, if you said like 4 or 5, those are the ones we're taught. They don't ever talk about the smaller ones outside of actual geology courses in college because it's just too complicated, I guess, to talk or to mention any of the smaller ones to those who aren't going into the field. I think it's a little silly. I think you guys deserve to know how many cool plates there are out there. Which is going to lead us into our top discoveries of 2024. And I kind of went with like a top 10 geology and a top 10 paleontology. Because there was a lot of both. And so I was like, we're going to go with like the top 10 of both. And I'm going to bounce between them. So we're going to start with geology because it has very much to do with our Trivia Tuesday. One of the first things that I think is one of the coolest things that was discovered this year was that there was an old plate, tectonic plate, that was discovered underneath other tectonic plates out in the East Pacific. So, if you hadn't heard about that, let's see. Something plate. But basically, they were there was a team from the University of Maryland who discovered a sunken ancient seafloor in the East Pacific Rise, which is a tectonic boundary on the floor of the southeastern Pacific Ocean. And basically, they were using seismic imaging to find a thick area in the mantle transition zone, about 410 to 660 kilometers beneath the surface, and basically, it's a fossilized fingerprint of an ancient piece of the seafloor that subducted into the earth about 250 million years ago. So, yes. Oh, my goodness. My family. Nosy. The door's shut. Leave me be. Siblings. Okay. As I was saying, 250 million years ago, which is super duper neat that we can find old continental, or not continental, old tectonic plates. Now, for number 10 for paleo, was that they've found a new record for the oldest fossilized skin. And it was like this scaly skin that is 289 million years old. So it's 130 million years older than what we had previously thought was the oldest piece of skin. Oh, thank you. People insist on buying me stuffed dinosaurs. I actually got a new one for Christmas that I haven't put out yet. I'm sure there's lots of evidence, more evidence too, but my goodness, it's hard to find. um, anyway, super distracted, but I love seeing comments, so thanks. So yeah, old skin that we didn't know could preserve in the older stuff yet. Now back to geology. So the oh goodness. Ba, ba, ba. I can. So they did some studies into the Denali Fault. So if we think about like the shape of Alaska and how we have like the main body here, and then it's got like little islands that jut off, the Denali Fault runs along those islands. It's part of the plate boundary there. And they did some research at 3 different sites spread out about 620 miles apart from each other. And that these portions, 620-mile portion of that fault was once a smaller united geologic feature. So basically this fault has been tearing apart 2 land masses, which shouldn't be all that surprising, but hey. Core drill. Sorry, okay, so Papa Smurf's asking, any way to core drill the one they found to see if there's anything fossilized? Are you talking about the old plate? Because there's not going to be anything fossilized at that point because it's in the mantle, which means it's so hot that anything that would have been fossilized in there has melted, and it's starting to the crystals are starting to basically come apart, like their molecules aren't holding together anymore because once you've added heat to a system, they get excited and molecules pop apart. So no, unfortunately, as cool as it would be to see what might have been on that particular plate, there's not going to be anything left. It's definitely turning back into magma. Checking. Okay, there we go. I'm seeing myself on YouTube. Good. I was starting to worry that just wasn't going to work. All right. Anyway, back to paleontology. So they found some new trackways in China. I want to make sure I got it right. Oh gosh, go away. Yes, yes. Back off. Da, 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 da. Tell me the story. Anyway, so they found this trackway in, South Korea, that's where it is. So these tiny trackways, they're about 120 million years old, so Cretaceous. And they think that what they're seeing was that this dinosaur was flapping while it was running. So they've got basically what looks like a dinosaur attempting to glide, running and gliding and leaving these fun little tracks. Yes, molecules move fast when they heat up and slow down when they're cold. Exactly. That is to Alice. So yeah, these would be the first trackways that we found that might suggest dinosaurs attempting to fly, which I think is super cool. We don't know what they belong to because they are just trackways, but we do believe that they belong to something related to Microraptor. And Microraptor is just a little bitty guy, has 4, quote, wings. It has feathers on arms and legs that are primary feathers. And we know that they were a glossy iridescent black, like a crow or a raven. So it'd be super cool if we actually have, if these are their footprints. But I don't know that they lived in South Korea. We know they lived in China. Well, no. Who knows? Be another cool thing we could find out in 2025. All right. For geology, we had a new discovery in the Grand Canyon, which is honestly a really big deal because a lot of people love to study the Grand Canyon because it has such a complete record that it's easy to follow stratigraphically what was going on in northern Arizona for a very, very long time. And so lots of people go and study it, and I remember learning about it in my classes because it is such a good example of like unconformities and disconformities and angular unconformities, and I will talk about those at some point, just not tonight because I don't want to go on forever. But one of the things that they found was that in some of the older rocks, let's see if we can, it was in the Cambrian period rocks, so 540 million years ago. They found torn up sediment in one layer that might be an evidence of a large hurricane or a tsunami that affected the shallow marine environment of that area at the time. So that's pretty cool stuff. I mean, to find possibly hurricane deposits. I mean, it's not entirely new. We talk about storm deposits and things in rocks. I'd show you the one that I have, but it is buried somewhere, and I'm not going to take the time to find it, which means I'll probably make a little video about it later so you can see what a storm deposit looks like. Basically, it looks like somebody just dumped a bunch of debris in a rock and then cemented it together. But that was something new from the Grand Canyon. Okay. Another one for paleo. Was a new dinosaur. If I can, there we go. So it's called Titanomachia. So super cool name. Go away. It was found in the La Colonia Formation of Argentina, late Cretaceous. And it's not very big for a sauropod. It's still 20 feet long, but that's really small for a sauropod, especially a titanosaur. So we're talking a relative of like Alamosaurus, who's only 20 feet long. So kind of adorable in the long scheme of things. And looks like the specimen consists of partially articulated skeleton, including caudal vertebrae, some ribs. some chevrons, the left humerus, fragments of the pelvic girdle, parts of both femora, both tibiae and fibulae, and parts of both astragali. Which, honestly, super impressive. It's hard to actually find that much stuff that belong to a sauropod. Most of the time, you're only getting, a single leg bone or a single vertebrae or something, because sauropods are big, and when you're big, scavengers like to eat off of you, and they'll pull parts of your body away, and parts of you will just float off, like your head, because your head's so small. So, that's an impressive amount of material. Back to geology. So back in August, there was a diamond found that is 2,492 carats, making it the second largest gem quality diamond ever found. And just to give you an idea, this is a diamond that would fit in the palm of my hand. Really big diamond. It was found in Botswana by a Canadian mining company. So that's fun. Now the fact that it's the size of a human fist, if they were to cut it, it would definitely come down in size from that fist-sized diamond. But considering what it takes to make a diamond, because we're talking about heat and pressure, and when you're putting heat and pressure, you're compacting it. So if I were to have a fist-size lump of coal that I compressed and put under the right conditions, the right heat and the right temperature, or the right temperature and the right pressure, I'm not going to get a very big diamond out of that. So we're talking a really big chunk of rock that got compressed into a slightly smaller big chunk of rock. Super, super impressive as far as diamonds go. Apparently that puts it at about $40 million. I guess I will believe the gemologist on this one, because, to me, diamonds are up forever. I'm very picky about that. I don't care for diamonds. They're not as rare as people want you to believe. Sorry. Plus, the moment you pull them out of the rock and they're not under any more heat pressure, they're turning back into graphite as we speak. So, how exciting is that really? I promise you, if you have a diamond, it's not going to change back into graphite in your lifetime. But know that it is in the process of turning back into graphite, which I guess might be cool. All right, back to paleo. I don't even know what we're on, 4 or 5. So, there was a new species of thescalosaurid ornithischian dinosaur found in the Cretaceous Cedar Mountain Formation, specifically the Musson-Tuchet member of Utah, called Photna, even though there's no T in there, but apparently it's Photna. Cool. But based on some anatomical similarities, it's probably closely related to Oryctodromeus, which is the burrowing dinosaur from Idaho that was recently named the Idaho State Dinosaur by my lovely friend LJ. So possibly another burrowing dinosaur found in Utah, which is super cool. And it seems that there were 2 well-preserved individuals found together, as well as some juvenile specimens. So seems that these guys were living all together in a hole, which, you know, super cute when you're a little dinosaur. Next on our list for geology has to do with where did water come from on the Earth specifically. There's been a lot of debate on like where water came from. There were some ideas not too long ago that meteors brought them, but some studies that they did this year on some meteorites show that there really isn't a lot of water on these meteorites or in these meteorites, but they were able to tell by rust how much water there was when the planetoids that these meteorites came from had, and that there was probably water on Earth from the very beginning, and that there's actually more water just floating around in the universe than we give it credit for. So that's super neat. Water is just wild no matter where you are. Back to our paleo. If I could spell, hopefully I pronounce this right. So, this year there was a new see. I want to make sure I get the word. Group? What is it? Okay, yeah. So there was a new tyrannosaur that was described from Mexico. It's only the second one that was found in Mexico, but they have named it Labocania. Ooh, can I say this? Give me the word. Labocania aguianae, after the paleontologist who discovered it. But there's two species. They lived about 70 to 80 million years ago. So basically we're adding to the earlier tyrannosaurs that lived in the early late Cretaceous. So basically you've got, if I go from like Canada down to Mexico, you've got Albertosaurus and Alberta. I hate tyrannosaurs, my friends. I try not to get too involved in them, and now I am drawing a blank. Let me make sure I got the right ones. Let's look at a family tree. Taxonomy. Yes, okay. You got Albertosaurus and like Daspletosaurus up in like Canada and Montana. Then in Utah you have Tyrannophonius and Lithonax. Then in like New Mexico you have Bistaheversaur, which personally is my favorite because it's got the coolest name. Up in Alaska you have Nanuqsaurus, which is a little more advanced. And then down in Mexico you have Labocania. Don't quote me on how to say that, but there you go. New Tyrannosaur. Terribly exciting. Ba, ba, ba. Now we go back to our plate tectonics. And they did a study back in January about source rocks for the first real continents, which Vegas. Oh, really? I did not know they were going to be in Vegas tomorrow. I'm out of the loop. But it doesn't seem like it would be that crazy of an idea, like first real continents. But if we think about it, before the continents, basically a major hurdle in understanding how the continents formed during the Archean Eon, so that's 4 to 2.5 billion years ago, has been identifying the building blocks of Earth's early crust. And they've associated 3 types of granitoid rocks, so that's tonalite, trondhjemite, and granodiorite, or TTGs. And that they're basically able to use those to figure out where our oldest rocks are, and that some of that still plays a part in our continent today. So, for example, the Canadian Shield is made of those TTGs. So part of our continent really is very, very old and was one of the very first continents actually made. And there's some slightly younger ones that have been accreted onto the continents and things like that, but they're working really hard to figure out exactly how the first continents were created. But yeah, so those TTGs are believed right now to be the first continental crust. So, if you hear about those, think about checking them out. It'd be kind of cool to say I was standing on the first continent. Okay. Now the next one in paleo, I've actually gotten to see this one, so it's very exciting. They discovered a new ceratopsian called Lokiceratops. And they actually have a cast of it on display at the Natural History Museum of Utah. So I've gotten to see this thing up close. Super cool looking. He was found in the Judith River Formation of Montana, as a lot of really cool ceratopsians have been. It is a centrosaurine, so it's related to things like Styracosaurus and Centrosaurus. It was found with, let's see, fragmentary postcrania, comprising posterior cervical vertebrae, the synsacrum, some dorsal and caudal vertebrae, a fused right scapula and coracoid, both ilia and ischia, the pelvic girdle, and of course the skull. Lots of pieces missing, but there's some pretty definitive parts that it had, including its fun little spike things that come out of its frill and make it look super fancy. And it's about let's see, the skull's about just a little over 3 feet long, and it's probably about 22 feet long, so fairly decent sized dinosaur. Um, they have its closest relatives, it looks like, are Albertoceratops and Medusaceratops, which makes sense because, you know, they were living up in that area too. And then we come up to a cause of the snowball Earth. We've been trying to figure that one out for a while. But they've discovered at MIT that snowball Earths were likely a product of rate-induced glaciations. That is, they found that Earth can be tipped into a global ice age when the level of solar radiation it receives changes quickly over a geologically short period of time. So basically, it didn't take very long to get into the snowball Earth, which, I don't know, is surprising when you think about it. But it also may have led to the rise of life. So if the snowball Earth hadn't happened, maybe we wouldn't have had some of the big fossil, or big, yes, life diversification, because it happened right before the Ediacaran. All right. And that brings me to the discovery of Tyrannosaurus macraensis. So, like I said, I don't like to get involved in Tyrannosaurus, but for once, this one actually had some good good stuff with it, and they weren't relying on silly things. But they had found this Tyrannosaurus in New Mexico, and they have its skull and then like one tail vertebrae. But its skull had some definite differences in shape to that of Tyrannosaurus rex. So it's gonna hold up better than, say, the number of teeth in the skull. And frankly, there was a really fun nickname going around. No worries, I understand. Believe me, dental work sucks. But anyway, there was a fun nickname going around for a little while calling Tyrannosaurus macraensis T-Mex, because it's found in New Mexico. So you have T-Rex and T-Mex. I personally like it, but I'm also from New Mexico, so I'm a little biased. So, from where I stand, it sounds like we have two credible Tyrannosaurus species. I don't include the three that was done in another study not that long ago, because that paper gave me a headache. But anyway, so macraensis, super cool. Then we have so there was a seabed survey that was being done that got reported on in February, where they basically did a detailed survey of the volcanic underwater deposits around the Kikai caldera, Japan. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I don't speak Japanese. But as a result, the research team found that the event from 7,300 years ago was the largest volcanic eruption in the Holocene by far. So all of you worried about Yellowstone, don't worry, it's not even going to be close to anything that this guy spewed out. Apparently, so 7,300 years ago, it ejected a large amount of volcanic products, ash, pumice, all that fun stuff. And it settled in an area measuring more than 4,500 square kilometers around the eruption site, with a dense rock equivalent volume of between 133 and 183 cubic kilometers. So that's a lot of stuff, guys. But hey, volcanoes, woo! Okay. Then back to paleo. There was one that that just made me smile. There is a new species of extinct crocodile named, and it has got the longest name of anything I've ever seen in my life, but it also just kind of amuses me. They named it Bangwig wishing asuchus. Bangwig wishing asuchus. Aramycaraminus. That is just, it's insanely long. I want to just share what that is, so I'm going to put it in all of these chats so you can see this name. Because it's just, oh my gosh, the best. I love it so much. Long name. I just love it because it's long and ridiculous. Okay. Then we have sorry, I'm trying. I cannot do things at the same time, I tell you. So, they did a study this year about the interaction between Mars and Earth, and Mars has an unexpected influence on our oceans and climate that apparently repeats every 2.4 million years. So that, I mean, we know that the moon has an effect. It's crazy to think that a planet could also have an effect on another planet. Am I surprised? No, I'm not. But I do still think it's super cool. Okay. Now, that was our number 2 for geology. Number 2 for me is that not too long ago, they were talking about diatrema, which had been lumped back in with Gastornis, but is now being pulled back out to be its own thing again. If you don't know what Diatrema or Gastornis are, they are large, flightless predatory birds from North America and Europe that were alive between 57.8 and 36.6 million years ago. I'm old enough that I remember as a child reading about Diatrema and Gastornis as separate things. And actually, because I work in older stuff, I kind of missed that they'd been lumped together until I was trying to find Diatrema once, and they were redirecting me to Gastornis, and I was like, oh, are we doing that now? Okay, cool. I guess that's a thing. So I'm really excited that they're pulling them back out, because that was something I grew up with and didn't realize that they had separated or come together. Yeah, super exciting for me as an old folk. Interesting. Now, for the top, what I think is one of the top stories, at least. I don't know that I would put these in any particular order. The top for geology is that they were doing studies on why is Mount Everest so tall compared to all these other mountain ranges out there. And if you follow the videos and things that I post, I did talk about this. So I had mentioned that the way that the Himalayas formed was not dissimilar from the way the Alps formed, but they are much steeper and taller than the Alps. So it's like, why is this? Why is Mount Everest and the Himalayas so much taller? And they think it has to do with two rivers that combined to make one, and it's removing a lot of sediment off of the mountain. Now, that seems contrary to what we would think of making something bigger, because we are removing sediment and eroding things down, which makes mountains smaller, right? Yes, but we've also got all of this weight that these mountains are putting onto our mantle, and they're sinking into the mantle. If we remove some of that weight, it springs back up. We call that isostatic rebound, and so they get taller. So if we're taking enough off that we're not reaching an equilibrium, it's going to keep rising until we reach that equilibrium. So, a very large river is making a mountain taller, which is honestly a cool fun fact to take to parties. Okay. Now I will say, for the last little bit here, the top thing in paleo for me really did happen just recently, and I was super excited about it. And I'm sorry to all the fanboys and girls out there, whether they be paleontologists or not, but they had a study come out where they finally killed Saurophaganax maximus. If you've never heard of it, don't worry. You don't need to worry about it now, because it's probably only related to some fragmentary sauropod that's probably already got a name associated with something else. So this name, probably dead. Nomen dubium. Go away. I've been saying for a while, Saurophaganax was just a really big-ass Allosaurus that was found in Oklahoma, but we don't have a lot of pieces of it, so trying to say that it's something different was driving me crazy, like putting it in a different genus entirely. I could bite the different species. So we now have Allosaurus annex to add to our other two Allosaurus species we have, Fragilis and Jim Madsoni. And technically, actually I guess there's technically four, because there's also Allosaurus europaeus, so the European Allosaurus that was found in Portugal. But we have three species that we know of in the US, and then the one in Europe. That I buy way more, and I was so excited to be like, I told you! And frankly, it's taken way too long to get to this point, but hey, you know what? We do what we can with the funding we have, the time we have, and the helping hands we have. But I'm sorry, Saurophaganax, but you can actually go die in a hole. I'm gonna stick by the new Allosaurus. Besides then having another genus. I don't know. Maybe that's just me personally. I'm more of a lumper. Anyway, so that is all of the super cool stuff that we have found and in geology and paleontology this year. And I'm looking forward to the new things that'll come out next year. There's bound to be something that comes out, you know, tomorrow, maybe. I mean, they did that with Macrorhynchus. They were just like, bam, let's get on top of that. I look forward to continuing to interact with all of you guys in the following year. I love being able to answer your questions and to be able to teach the stuff that I absolutely adore and love. And hopefully we'll get a good setup for field season this year so you can actually like get some good stuff from the field from me. We'll see. The fact that there's no service out there makes it difficult, but I manage. It's really nice when I don't have to be connected, but anyway, babbling. This upcoming month is going to be all about the Ordovician period. So, if you don't know much about the Ordovician period, now you will. If you do, feel free to chime in. And I hope you all have a happy new year. Stay safe out there tonight. Don't be doing anything dangerous or stupid, okay? I know we're excited that the new year's coming. Be responsible. I do want you guys to keep coming back and, you know, all that. And I don't think I have any other announcements to give you. Thanks for joining and enjoy your New Year's Eve. I will